Hey everyone, welcome to 5 Questions with LeRoy Butler. We're here after week 2. It's actually been, about 5 days, since 4 or 5 days since the Packers beat the Bears.
Big victory.
Big question for you. Which team are the Packers? The one that lost to the 49ers or beat the Bears, or are they somewhere in between?
I think it's a combination of somewhere in between, because now you have a different safety, although young, different safety on your nickel package, and a lot of moving parts too. You got Eric Walden back, so maybe that team is the team you'll see a more attacking style. With San Francisco, they're a little conservative in some areas, but when they're playing like that, flying around, I think they can compete with anybody. And you can see the improvement, because that's what Woodson had said after San Francisco. He believes in the defense, and he thought they'd play better.
Well, you saw some of the pressure. They had some pressure against the 49ers.
Yeah.
I think, when they played a pretty poor offensive line, it really showed up more. So, I mean, there was some evidence that they could do that. On the flip side, the offense didn't really look that much better against the Bears than it did against the 49ers. What are they?
I don't necessarily know if it's a concern, Tom, but when you're playing a defense that plays cover 2 with the safety so deep, you have to be patient. You have to run the ball, which Cedric Benson averaged 4 yards instead of 2.1 the first week. So it makes this offense say, look, if you're going to play your safeties back deep, we got to run the ball and be patient. So Aaron Rodgers' numbers are not so gaudy like they was last year. But for the most part, he's still efficient, and he's still moving the ball. He just has to be patient, wait for that opportunity to make the big play.
Yeah. Last thing on the Bears game, kind of a controversy, after the game. Jay Cutler dressing down his offensive linemen, even bumping into one of them, sort of his way to motivate his players. Later we saw Aaron Rodgers dress down James Jones for what appeared to be a mental error. What do you make of that? Is that a smart thing to do? As I recall, and I hate, nobody likes me bringing up his name, but Brett Favre very rarely ever chewed out his guys. I mean, I think that was something maybe his coaching dad instilled in him, that you don't do that on the field. What do you make of that?
Well, I think for the most part, Brett Favre used to encourage guys like Corey Bradford, who maybe didn't run the right route and things of that nature, and make Corey a good deep threat. Moreover, Jay Cutler is a little different. I think the situation is a little different, and you got to hear me out on this one now, because I start to kind of politic a little bit for Aaron Rodgers. But if you're Jay Cutler, you're so animated, and then afterwards you could apologize to your teammates, but he doesn't, Tom. He says something to the effect, paraphrasing, if they want somebody that doesn't care, maybe they need to get another quarterback. May not be a bad idea. But moving to Aaron Rodgers, remember now, when James Jones was getting a new contract, Aaron Rodgers fought for him. So that's a little tough love.
That's true.
So it's one of these things. I have a lot valued in you. You're a starter this week because 85 Jennings is out. I need you to step your game up. So if I'm throwing a pass, I need you to get across the defensive back's face. But for the most part, Aaron Rodgers tried not to be so demonstrative and animated out there on the field, but he wants to hold his guys accountable. Now, the reciprocal of that, the receivers also hold Aaron Rodgers accountable. So it's got to work in both, work together. But overall, you really don't like seeing a lot of that. I wish a lot of that wouldn't have be on the field. You got to always encourage each other.
Right. And you'll never see a wide receiver raise his hands up and start yelling at Rodgers.
He won't get another football if he does.
Let's move on to the next game, which is Seattle on Monday night.
Tough place to play.
This is going to be a tough game. We already saw that they nearly pulled it out against Arizona, who we know is a good team after beating New England this past weekend. And then they beat a pretty good Dallas team and beat them pretty soundly. This is a tough, hard-nosed team, isn't it?
Dallas had 10 days to prepare, still got beat. Special team turnovers is just block punt for a touchdown. But here's the thing about, let's go back to the quarter, Russell Wilson. Kid had 1 year, Tom, goes to Wisconsin and starts. He was the #1 rated quarterback. I know you had RG3 and Andrew Luck. He was #1 passer rating. He gets a chance. He drops in the 3rd round, and for some reason goes to camp. Matt Flynn, big contract, and Tavares Jackson. Tavares Jackson's traded. You know, Matt Flynn still comes in, but he's the starter. So it says something for a kid that earned his right, especially when you're 5'9", 5'10". Right. Now, I think this offense works great for him. They want to run the ball with Marshawn Lynch. People are still saying he should be in a Packer uniform. They had an opportunity to trade for him, but didn't. They're big, they're physical. They got 3 wide receivers, 6'3", 6'4". Their secondary is huge. Those guys are 6'3", 6'4". So I think, and you could look at the crackback block that Golden Tate did against the Cowboys. These guys fly around, they block, and they're very well coached, and they have a lot of fun. And there's a lot of ties to this organization with Snyder, being a protege of the general manager, Ted Thompson.
Right, and he's the general manager there now, and he brought a lot of people with him. And Darrell Bevell is the offensive coordinator. And we'll look at one of his funky formations during the
it's kind of an illusion of, and don't miss X and the O's, because the formation, if you're a safety time, you're thinking it's a run formation.
Right. And
so it kind of fools
to be very confusing for the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Russell Wilson for a minute.
Yeah.
He's 5'10", and that's never going to change.
Yeah.
You know,
never,
and there's certain things that he probably can't do consistently, which is, be under center, drop back 7 steps, 5 steps, and get the ball over the line every time. But they do a lot of things with him.
Yes.
Who's comparable to that? Did you play against Doug Flutie?
Doug Flutie, yeah. Doug Flutie was a guy that was very optimistic in the pocket and loves to play action and go down the field.
Yeah.
And I think
what's the difference here? What makes you think Russell Wilson has a better chance to be
Tom,
than Doug Flutie?
If you look at all of his throws, he doesn't make a lot of terrible throws. He's patient. Whatever the defense gives him, he'll just take it. And I think for the most part, if you look at all the wide receiver averages, they only got one guy averaging over 12 or 13 yards.
Yeah.
So when I look at that, I see a quick striking offense. Every now and then you may see him throw down the field, but I think he's efficient. I think that's why he's the starter. He's more efficient than most quarterbacks, and they like the hunger of him studying and learning the offense.
Yeah. How important is it going to be for the Packers to have Greg Jennings in this game against that defense?
This is the week you want to have Greg Jennings. You're going to get a lot of opportunity man-to-man coverage outside. They love to crowd the line of scrimmage. I said before how the size of these corners. If you have Greg Jennings in that slot, as Austin did when the Cowboys, he came and did a play that we're going to talk about later. If you're in the right spot, wide receiver, you can make some hay down the field on these guys.
Right.
So, and this is a good track for his growing, the good surface up there in Seattle. So
fast.
I expect, a fast track. I expect him to come back. But if not, they have to step up and keep getting the ball to your playmakers, and I think they'll be fine.
Okay, so we will, that does it for 5 questions, and of course we'll be back after the Seattle game.
I want to thank my sponsors again. Salvation Army, couldn't do it without them. SyndixMarket.com, Ballester owned and operated, and WJ Kuhn in Oak Creek if you have any car problems.
And don't forget to join us for X's and O's.